everybody, Joe Coffey here for PremierGuitar.com. We are at the Bugera booth at NAMM 2011. That's the new TRIREC. You're also going to check out the Magician here in a bit, and we'll also talk about some new tube technology from Bugera. So I've got Jan with me here. Jan, how are you, sir?
I'm fine.
Good.
Welcome to the Bugera booth.
Thank you very much. Tell us about the new TRIREC Infinium amp.
Yeah, the TRIREC is a 3-channel amp, and it's got so many features that are really special in this combination that I can go running through that one by one. So what you're just focusing on is the very power. So this amp features power scaling. You can virtually, even though it's a 100-watt tube monster, really loud amp, you can tone it down and tame it to be a 10-watt amp, something like that. Then we've got an internal digital reverb. We've got 3 basically almost identical sections for channels with mode switches, modern, vintage and classic for the 2 distortion channels, and the clean channel has a drive option too. So basically, if you like, you could have 3 crunch channels with different flavors.
All right, let's check out the clean channel.
And there's even a drive option. So basically, if you like, you can have 3 distortion channels.
Yeah, just flipping the drive switch there, and that's pretty cool. Let's check out the other 2 channels now.
Each of those channels is very flexible due to the modeling switches here. You can give it different flavors the way that you prefer to do it. So it's not a predefined, this is crunch and this is lead, but you can mix and blend what you like.
Well, let's push one a little bit. I'd like to hear it really opened up. Okay, cool. So we could hear, that started off on classic, and you could hear when it went to vintage and then modern.
Yes, that's exactly what I did. And I fooled around a little bit with the tone control so that you can see that it's very flexible EQ settings.
All right, tell us about the back panel here.
So we're starting on the left side. You see the loudspeaker outputs, and right above that, this is really a novelty for Behringer. We're introducing the Infinium technology, which is a tube live monitoring thing. We're auto-biasing the tubes and monitoring their performance at the same time. So we can maintain the consistent tube performance throughout the lifetime of the tubes, and at the same time ensuring that the tubes will never be getting too much current or getting too cold.
So is it fair to describe this as like an automatic biaser?
Exactly, that's what it is. And it's controlling the tubes individually, and that means that you can even mix and match different types of tubes in their positions without caring about mismatching their biasing points. You can use different brands of tubes or different types of tubes, like KT77 combined with the 6L6, EL34, whatever you like. And the Infinium technology will take care that each tube is getting the proper bias setting automatically.
Okay, very cool. And this is something you guys are now doing with existing Bugera brands, the Infinium technology, correct?
Correct, yeah. We introduced this technique to all the current Bugera models, so all the the amp heads that you can see here feature that technology, making on one hand sure that you can mix and match all the tubes, and on the other hand that the tube life will be much longer than before.
All right, let's talk about the Magician.
The Magician is also a 3-channel head. But unlike the TRIREC, the sound concept of this amp is totally different. The EQ settings are all pre-distortion, so whatever you dial in will have an effect on the amount of gain that you have and on the quality of gain. So that's more of a Fender tradition approach. And in addition to the EQ, which is pre-distortion, we have a graphic EQ that you can see right here. And the graphic EQ is a very flexible tool for shaping the sound post-distortion. So we've got lots of options. You can kick in the graphic EQ with the provided foot switch. It comes with a 6-button foot switch. MIDI input, so you can integrate the amp into your MIDI system and run everything in parallel. And there's also external switching systems that can be connected on the rear panel. Here now is just the Rhythm 1 channel, which is basically in a clean setting right now. Just kick in the reverb. Okay, so if we move on to Rhythm 2, which is what is special on this amp is the EQs for Rhythm 1 and Rhythm 2 are shared for bass and mid, but they have their individual treble controls, if you look over here. So since the EQ is pre-distortion, you can use the treble control 2 to control the gain and the quality of the gain for the Rhythm 2 channel. And then next to the preamp section, we have separate presence controls and separate volume controls per channel. And there are even options to switch the corner frequency of the feedback loop for each presence control separately. So if we move on to the what I really think is special is that the sound quality of the two first Rhythm 1 and 2 channels is kind of homogeneous. It's not that you switch between two channels and get the impression it's totally two different total amps, but rather one sound evolves from the other. So you can have different grades of gain, and it still maintains the same signature sound, which is very nice, I think. So if we move on to the lead channel, what is special here, we have two gain controls basically. One is very much at the beginning of the signal flow and one in the middle, plus the volume control. And all the three of them will be determining how the amp reacts and how easily it gets into overtones when you're playing and feedbacks come up.
Let's hear it.
So there's bright switches, there's the two gain controls, there's a full EQ, a fat switch, plus the mid gain and the presence controls in here. Lots of options inside the channel, plus the possibility to kick in the graphic EQ. So there's a whole bunch of possibilities to change and tailor the sound the way that you really need it or prefer it.
Let's check out the back panel. All right, so I see this has the Infinium technology too.
Yes, like all of the amps that we introduced here, we changed to the Infinium technology to make sure that the tube performance will be very consistent throughout the lifetime of the amp. You probably never have to change the tube unless you really want to try a different sound option. Because the tube, if it's aging, it would be compensated by the Infinium technology, and on the other hand, the Infinium technology will make sure that it's never operated in an operating point where it's getting dangerous or overstressing the tube. So all in all, the tube life can be prolonged significantly with that technology. So what's the external effects loop that is foot controllable is implemented basically the same way that we did in the TRIREC. You can control send and return levels, and you can assign the function of the external loop to be channel assignable. It could be always on, always off, or remote controllable. If it's assigned to a channel, for example, the amp would remember if you had put the effects loop on for the clean channel, for example, but it was switched off for the distortion channel. Then you'd only have to hit one button on the foot switch and everything recalls automatically. So whatever you like, you really get loads of options to do that. What's also special is the power amps section here. You can have a selection of pentode or triode mode. You can switch between the output biasing, and you can control continuously control the screen voltage with basically doing power scaling. So like we did here, we turned down the vary power to basically emulate the performance of a 10 or 15 watt amp, even though it's a 100 watt amp. So if you fully crank this, you get the full power. If you turn it down, you can make the amp sound smaller and still crank the power amp. Yeah, then we've got some more ins and outs for recording and connecting to a slave amp. But I think the main highlights are really power scaling and the Infinium technology, which is really outstanding. You won't find that on any other amp.
If people want to find out more, where can they go online?
So you can go online, www.bugera-amps.com.
Jan, thank you so much. I sure appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
All right, I'm Joe Coffey. You're watching PremierGuitar.com.